Stealth, a virtue that many within the Mojave crave, but few truly become a master of. However, there was one suit that would change all of this. This is not that suit. It's the second one. The one with the...
Will you love me if I help you hide?
Shut the fuck up. Today we look at the facility that the suit was conceived in, and the methods by which it was conceived. The facility itself, X-13, is located at the westernmost point of Big MT, among many concrete pillars that serve no purpose bar to take up lots of fucking space. The inside has remained in relatively good condition, like many other areas in Big MT. However, there are signs that something has happened, like books on the floor and shite knocked over. The force field to the right can be taken down using the sonic emitter, and inside, well, it's mostly shite to be honest, but the briefcase at the back contains the key to the X-8 kennel, which is something, I guess. The security terminals back in the foyer tell us about a shipment for Dr. Callis, and that something has happened that requires reassurance that it's all good. The second entry details the success of the sonic emitter, and that, while its range of frequencies it can affect is slim, the force fields in Big MT fall under this, making it very useful to us. Inside the janitor closet to the right here, we find a hurriedly abandoned game of chess and a damaged fuse box, more evidence that something has transpired here that caused the staff to leave quickly or die. Inside Lab 1, we find a drawing board that reveals to us how much of a fucking miracle it was that these people actually ever managed to make something. Durable, sturdy. This is how a child designs a rocket ship, okay, not how an educated individual comes up with ideas. The first section of the suit can be found on the table, as well as parts of the damaged prototype. In this room's terminal, we are shown that at least not all of them were inbred, and some science was actually going on here, as the globs were apparently able to increase user dexterity. In Lab 2, we see more evidence of idiocy with the testing methods such as kick the bollocks out of a Nightstalker, and make sure the boots were rubber. The second part of the suit can be found in here, the boots. And once again, the terminal entries are a bit more intelligent than the retarded scrollings would have you believe. The boots apparently allowed the user to react with their legs quicker than ever before. To boot more Nightstalkers, supposedly. Outside the lab, we see this poor sod, the first of many corpses. Clearly he died defending himself. Inside Lab 3, we see he made an attempt to do so using a mine and an axe, like a mad cunt, before finally being killed. We find the last part of the suit, the chest plate, and the final terminal entry pertaining to its development. This entry tells us that the suit can adapt new functions to the user as the functions become available, and that Maury is going to make some bootleg drink called Battle Brew, and get it down his neck. Inside the main lab area, we find more signs of struggle and bloodshed, and how this occurred unfolds to us on the terminals around us. On Assistant Paris' terminal, we find 3 entries of interest. The first, Kudos, tells us they have a virtual reality simulator, and some fucking idiot stuck a Jack and the Beanstalk program onto it. Callis comes off as a bit of a tight arse here, and the glorious Battle Brew is relocated to X-12. The next message from Dr. Callis is the first that allows us to see how much of a sick and cruel cunt he is. He says he will use cattle prods to trigger their abilities, so he has results to show, them being Nightstalkers, known for their ability of going invisible. The last one is a pretty valid complaint. No need for a message if you can yell it across the room. The next terminal contains the first message, and what will be quite a few from Butts. The first is from Dr. Callis bitching about Butts reading comics while pretending to read a manual, which is cliched as frig. To the right we can find signs of a struggle outside the VR room, and true enough, 2 guys are dead inside. They were both armed, and it seems they made an attempt to mount a last stand that didn't end too well. Unfortunately, the terminal here is destroyed. The reason for this told to us in a note that can be found in here, which reads, "With my dying breath, I write that I hate the VR simulation so much. It has killed us, now I will kill it." So we can't find out any more about this room. Towards the end of the room, we can find more fragments of a damaged prototype, as well as a bed that I presume belongs to Dr. Callis, given its proximity to the Nightstalkers. The terminal here sheds further light on his sick obsession with harming them. The first entry tells us the Nightstalkers were created here, and that, While they do possess the ability to render themselves partially invisible, do not do so in the company of people. It is here that he decides to start harming them. The second one isn't as interesting, but it appears Jack and the Beanstalk fucked over the VR, and now it's bollocksed, and no one wants Callus to find out. The third details the arrival of Dr. the Count Callus' shipment of cattle prods. Security then tells him that they aren't prepared for internal threats, i.e. all the Nightstalkers getting loose, but the Arse does not listen. The second last one is the warning sign. They are becoming more aggressive, and this leads to the deaths of many people, all because one person would not listen. Finally, some genius figures out that creatures bred for combat may not like being poked with a cattle prod, imagine that, and that they should stop, though not for sentimental reasons, more for the reason of not damaging the test results. Downstairs, we see the man himself, and we can sleep soundly knowing justice was served. Inside the kennels you may encounter several Nightstalkers, as well as the remains of one or more workers. Dotted across the ceiling are chunks of hanging meat, though whether this was to feed the Nightstalkers, or to taunt them is unknown, though if Dr. Callus put them there, it was most certainly to taunt them. Inside the sewage pipe and to the left, we see what appears to be a failed escape attempt by a lab resident, and also the likely escape route that the Nightstalkers used, unleashing them on the Big MT and Mojave in the process. Back to the right we find evidence of a lab technician's last stand. This was most likely Maury, or at least someone who knew about battle brew, as, in the next room, several bottles of battle brew can be found, as well as the recipe for the mighty drink, and one more person's corpse. Inside the testing labs, we find more terminal entries that give us some insight into the people that worked here. But it's the substances that interest us. Inside the admin observation area, we can find Celine Green, a recipe for battle brew, and red paste, a health regenerating consumable. Past here and to the left, we locate another victim of the slaughter that took place here, as well as another terminal. The first entry details more exploits of Butts, as he whines about being caught reading magazines. The next entry tells us about the K9000 gun, and how they were asked to mess around with the code and mod it, providing us with an upgrade. Behind this is the office observation area 2, where we can see the workspace of someone who does not give a fuck, as well as another mattress, sexy sleepwear, and a poster, suggesting that something underhanded was going on here. Maybe something sexy. The terminal at the far end tells us of a technician gifted in programming, who develops a mod for the K9000, once again providing us with an upgrade, while at the same time pointing out the people who work here are fucking morons. The reception observation area next to this provides us with more blood splatter to evidence the incident, and more lovely terminal entries to read. This one points out a flaw in the tripwire defenses of the stealth test that, if we want, we can utilise to make the whole affair easier. Back to the left brings us into yet another overlooking area, affording us with complaints of chafing. The terminal straight ahead tells us that during the first test the suit was extremely tight, more likely than not because the person in question is a fat bollocks and needs to eat less crap. On the next terminal, Dr. Callus tells the individual in question that they are fat and suggests they use an implant, which is meant to help with weight loss in animals, essentially shattering their self-esteem, like a dickhead. The test area itself is where all of the upgrades to the suit will occur, using the self-implementing system mentioned in Lab 3. The safe area will be filled with whatever crap they deem as a reward, and the test can be triggered using the terminal. Keep in mind that you can unlock the doors and use the observation areas to move around if you want. The test area itself looks like gobshite, with robo-brains patrolling the area. It seems, however, that several staff members may have come down here to escape, and we can find them mangled to fuck under a bookcase. The goal is to reach the administrator's room and retrieve the intel, then collect your measly prize. So as we can see, this place was full of morons, idiots that fucked about and, by some miracle, actually managed to make the stealth suit. The other goal of this facility was the engineering of Nightstalkers. Their stealth ability no doubt played a large role in the development of the stealth suit. But guess what? Vicious animals do not like being poked with cattle prods. Dr. Callus is solely responsible for the slaughter that occurred here, bar maybe the VR machine, and if reports in other parts of Big MT are to be believed, the Nightstalkers could have compromised many facilities. So in the end, it all comes back to this retard and his fetish for hurting things. If you have any suggestions for future videos, I would love to hear them, so leave them in the comment section below. And if you want to have your music featured in a video, message me. Follow me on Twitter to talk to me, and I hope to see you in the next episode. And goodbye. This is the end of the episode. You reached it. Here, have a metaphysical high five. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave some feedback in the comments section below. If you have any suggestions for future content, I would love to hear them. Or just to hear you talking to me in general, because it's pretty good crack. If you want to talk to me on a more regular and or personal and or quicker level, follow me on Twitter at thenthapple. If you want to get regular updates to my content, subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a like? And if you want to let other people see it and help me grow, I always appreciate shares, because sharing is caring. And as always, I hope I will see you in my next episode. And goodbye.